The restaurant glowed with soft golden lights, its air scented with truffle and roses. At a corner table reserved under the name, Mr. Ethan Cole, a man in a crisp navy suit checked his watch for the fourth time. Ethan was the kind of man who made people nervous just by existing, sharp jawline, cold gray eyes, and a calm confidence that came from being one of the youngest CEOs in New York City. He had built an empire from scratch, and yet, as the city buzzed outside, loneliness clung to him like a shadow he couldn't shake. Tonight was supposed to be different. His friend and business partner, Marcus, had arranged a blind date for him, a surprise, he'd said. Ethan had almost refused, but Marcus had convinced him, claiming the woman was a stunning model with a kind heart. Ethan didn't believe in love anymore, but something in him, perhaps boredom, perhaps hope, had made him say yes. At exactly 7, the door opened, and a woman stepped in. For a moment, Ethan thought she was lost. She wasn't dressed like a model. Her faded blue dress was simple, her shoes scuffed at the edges, and her hair, though neatly tied, looked like it had fought a long day. But when she lifted her head, her eyes caught the light, and he saw something no luxury brand could imitate, warmth. "Mr. Cole," she asked softly. Her voice trembled slightly, as if afraid she'd made a mistake. Ethan rose politely, masking his confusion. "Yes, you must be Claire." She nodded and smiled, though he noticed her fingers gripping her purse tightly. Something about her unease felt raw, real. Not the kind of calculated shyness he was used to from women who wanted something from him. They sat, the waiter arrived, and she quickly declined wine. "Just water, please," she said, embarrassed. Ethan ordered the chef's special and watched her fidget with the napkin. He decided to break the silence. "So, Marcus said you're in fashion." Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh, no. I think there's been a mix-up. I work at a bakery. I bake cakes and sometimes deliver them myself." She let out a nervous laugh. Maybe Marcus meant someone else. Ethan froze. Marcus wouldn't have confused something like that. Unless, she continued, her cheeks coloring. "I'm sorry if this is awkward. My friend set me up on this blind date. Said it might be good for me to meet new people. I didn't even know your full name until I got here." The puzzle pieces clicked. They weren't supposed to meet. 2 different blind dates, same restaurant, same time. Ethan could have ended it there. He could have politely excused himself, returned to his glass of wine, and left her with a kind smile. But something about her sincerity disarmed him. Maybe it was the way her voice carried both exhaustion and hope. Maybe it was the faint trace of flour still clinging to her wrist, proof of a hard-working life. So instead of leaving, he smiled slightly. "Well, since we're both here, would you mind if we still had dinner?" She blinked in surprise. Really, he said. "Besides, it's not every day I get to meet a woman who bakes for a living. That's far more impressive than modeling." The comment drew a shy smile from her, one that reached her eyes. As the evening unfolded, their conversation flowed more easily than either expected. Claire told him about her 6-year-old son, Noah, a bright, curious boy who loved dinosaurs and pancakes. Her husband had left when Noah was 2, and since then, she'd been working double shifts to keep a small roof over their heads. Ethan listened, captivated. He found himself laughing at her stories, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in years. For the first time, he wasn't the CEO. He was just a man listening to a woman who reminded him what it meant to be human. When the bill arrived, she tried to reach for her purse, but he gently stopped her. "It's my treat." She hesitated, then whispered, "Thank you, but I'll pay you back." He chuckled. "If it makes you feel better, you can bake me a cake someday." Her face lit up. Deal. That night, as he drove home, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her. The sincerity in her laugh, the way she looked at the world as if still believing in goodness despite everything, it stirred something deep inside him. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found excuses to visit the bakery she worked at. Sometimes he'd order coffee he never drank or pastries he didn't need. Each time, she'd greet him with that same surprised smile, flour dusting her cheeks like snow. It didn't take long for their connection to deepen. He learned how she'd been turned down by banks when trying to start her own bakery. He saw the exhaustion behind her smiles, the sacrifices she made for her son. And he admired her, truly admired her, in a way he never had with anyone before. Claire, on the other hand, didn't know the full extent of who Ethan was. She knew he worked in business, but he'd never mentioned his company name, and she never asked. She liked the simplicity of their friendship, the honesty of it. One day, when Noah fell sick and Claire couldn't afford his medicine, Ethan quietly stepped in. He arranged for a doctor to visit and covered the expenses without telling her. When she found out, she was furious. "You had no right," she cried, tears in her eyes. "I don't need your pity." "It's not pity," he said calmly. "It's care. I don't want your charity, Ethan. I've fought too hard to stand on my own." He looked at her, guilt in his chest. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to help." Her voice softened, trembling. "I know you meant well. But I can't be someone's project." She walked away that day, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt true pain, not from rejection, but from the thought of losing someone real. Weeks passed. He tried to focus on work, but nothing filled the emptiness. Board meetings blurred together. He stopped smiling. His assistant noticed. His shareholders whispered, but he didn't care. Then, one rainy evening, as he left the office, he spotted a small crowd near a broken-down food truck. He recognized it immediately, the bakery van Claire had been saving to buy and had finally gotten through sheer determination. Only now, smoke rose from its hood, and Claire stood in the rain, holding Noah's hand, panic written on her face. Without hesitation, Ethan ran over. "Claire," she turned, shocked. "Ethan, what are you?" "Step back," he said, removing his jacket to shield Noah from the rain. He quickly called a mechanic and arranged for a tow. When the truck was taken care of, Claire looked at him, tears mixing with the rain. "You always show up when everything falls apart," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Maybe that's my timing. Terrible, but loyal." She laughed weakly, and for a moment, they just stood there, two broken people holding onto each other beneath a storm. That night, he drove them home. When he saw the tiny apartment she lived in, the peeling wallpaper, the single bed she shared with her son, something inside him broke. He didn't feel pity, he felt respect. Respect for her strength, her pride, her endless love for her child. As Noah slept, Claire sat by the window, hugging her knees. Ethan joined her quietly. "Why are you so kind to me?" she asked softly. He looked at her, voice steady. "Because you remind me what kindness looks like. And because somewhere between all your stories and all your laughter, you stole something from me." She frowned. "What did I steal?" He smiled. "My heart." Her eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, I can't give you the life you're used to. I don't want that life anymore," he said. Simply, "I just want you." Months later, with his help, but on her terms, Claire finally opened her own bakery, Nose Crumbs. Ethan was there on opening day, not as the powerful CEO cutting a ribbon, but as the man who loved the woman who refused to give up. The bakery became a success, not because of money, but because of the heart behind it. Locals adored Claire's warmth and Noah's laughter echoing from the back room. Ethan often came by to help, though he was terrible at frosting cakes. One evening, after closing, Claire wiped flour off his nose and teased, "You're getting better." He grinned. "I'm just trying to keep up with the boss." She laughed, the sound that had once mended his empty nights. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Noah ran up to them, holding a drawing. "Look, Mommy, look, Ethan." It was a crayon picture of the three of them holding hands in front of the bakery. Underneath, in uneven letters, he'd written, "Our family." Tears blurred Claire's vision as she hugged her son. Ethan placed a gentle hand on her back, his heart full. He had spent years chasing success, but true wealth, he realized, wasn't found in skyscrapers or bank accounts. It was here, in this tiny bakery, in the laughter of a child who called him family, and in the love of a woman who had once been too humble to believe she deserved him. Years later, when journalists asked Ethan Cole how he changed from a ruthless businessman into one of the city's most compassionate philanthropists, he simply smiled and said, "A woman who baked bread taught me what it means to feed the soul." Because sometimes, the richest hearts are found in the poorest places, and sometimes, love finds you when you least expect it, wearing a simple blue dress and the scent of freshly baked bread. Moral of the story: Money builds empires, but love builds people. When you learn to see beyond status and success, you might just find the kind of happiness that no fortune could ever buy.